Hello everyone, welcome back to the dannphan channel. Today we are looking at what indie manga has to offer us. We are reviewing Holy Ark by Young Wavy, who you might already know as being behind the Young Wavy Shonen magazine. Holy Ark is a collection of the chapters posted in that magazine. For this volume, it is 3 chapters in total. So let's get started. What is Holy Ark all about? Well, starting off from page 1, we get introduced to the concept of a post-apocalyptic world if the sun exploded. Quite literally, the first page is 50 years ago, our sun exploded. Now, contrary to what a lot of people would usually believe when hearing the sun exploded, humanity did not die from that event. Rather, instead, they're still alive on Earth, but kinda barely. They're using their technology to get by the best that they can, although the world has been kinda shrouded in darkness, it's very cold, and the main problem that they are now facing is the radiation from the supernova that shifted the world. Because that radiation is actually mutating people and turning them into these monsters, which they call diffusions. Yes, we've had this conversation about how nobody wants to call a monster. They always have to come up with some new term for them. In this case, I guess Young Wavy is going kind of back and forth with calling them mutants and calling them diffusions. Now, our main character who's featured on the cover here, he's Dominic. He's an Ark wielder. Now, Ark wielders work for this organization known as the Holy Guard. They keep the diffusions under control so that they don't hurt anybody. But Dominic, in this case, is a bit rogue from the organization. He wants to take matters into his own hands after finding this little girl down here on the cover, who's actually like Siamese twins, 2 girls stuck together. They were actually born from a diffusion. A dead diffusion who I guess mutated from a pregnant woman, if I was to make a bold assumption. And she actually has a very strange mutant ability, which is to create life. Like, they literally have an underground base underneath the earth, you know, hollow earth theory and all that. I do kind of like the hollow earth thing when it comes to post-apocalyptic stuff. But anyway, they have like a base underneath the earth, and he just leaves her alone to like frolic and whatnot. And when he comes back, there's like a shitload of animals that she's just like creating. So you can see how she would be valuable in repopulating the earth. And he's taking it upon himself to do checks on her, as well as continue his own experimentation with diffusions separate from the Holy Guard. Now, there is a lot of world building that is hinted at in just the first volume alone. Apparently, Dominic and all of the humans that we're introduced to are said to actually be artificially born, meaning that women are no longer getting pregnant and actually giving birth to babies naturally. And these girls, despite the fact that they were born from a diffusion, they do act fairly normally, and Dominic also values them because they were born in a normal way. Well, you know, the normal, they were born biologically as opposed to being a test tube baby or being a clone. People are not able to have babies, it seems, and I'm not really sure why. Maybe the fact that they're born artificially has taken away their ability to reproduce. It certainly has not taken away their instinct to reproduce, as we see in one of the opening scenes, but I'll get to that in a second. Now, there's also like a lot to be said about the logistics of the sun exploding, because you know, it makes you ask the question like, okay, so is it like just pitch black now? I mean, I know that he can glow, so maybe he can get some light that way. Maybe the diffusions also glow, maybe because they're radioactive. Sure, you can make light and you can make fire to artificially keep a human settlement fairly normal. Although I do have to ask, because this one panel in particular does kind of show the moon glowing. How does that work without a sun? And maybe it's also worth noting that the first page does not say the sun exploded, it says our sun exploded. Does that mean there are multiple suns? Their sun exploded, but they're still receiving some light from another sun. I mean, this is an alt universe. Rules that you set for this universe is only limited by your own imagination. All that being said, I do find the concepts being introduced in the first volume to be fairly interesting. Getting down to the nitty-gritty though, I will say for those of you watching this review and maybe have already decided to check it out or not check it out, I'll give you a fair warning, this is not for kids. This is very much in that seinen, edgy, dark type of style, and they waste no time with hitting you with that, because right away in the first chapter, we're introduced to a fairly disturbing scene of a teenager, I guess at one of these human settlements, masturbating on a toilet. And as he finishes, a diffusion comes out of the toilet and disembowels him. Very graphic. Multiple pages dedicated to this. I cannot show them on YouTube. I do think it was very bold to put that right at the beginning, considering that the majority of the remaining volume is actually quite tame as far as gore and other like explicit material like that. But I think if you're aiming for that type of audience, maybe it's better to put that type of stuff right in the beginning so they can have a proper expectation of what this series is going to be about. I think Young Wavy is a pretty talented artist, and many people would be drawn to this manga for the art style alone. Given the themes and also style and everything, I could totally imagine this being a title published by Dark Horse or something. Now, as far as this first volume being the intro into the series, a lot of it is more so focused on the action scenes and big explosions than necessarily the character writing. In fact, you only really get a deeper peek into Dominic's motivations once you get to the very last chapter and you actually get introduced to these little girls. And because of that, I would say that maybe a mistake is just a lack of character writing. Not that action scenes shouldn't be a priority when it comes to making your first volume, but you need to strike that balance between action scenes as well as character motivated scenes so that people can kind of connect with the characters first and foremost. Instead, there's kind of a lot of lore dropping, and a lot of the lore is dropped in these narration boxes. He's not actually really communicating with someone to explain this lore, but rather it's just communication directly with us, the audience. And that's fine, but there is a lot less personality when you choose to deliver lore in narration boxes like that, as opposed to having characters talk about lore or explain lore to each other, or maybe even having a Link character who doesn't know any of this stuff, and then he has to explain it to the Link character, etc., etc. There is also another funny nitpick that I think both Holy Ark and my own book, Reaper Book 1, have made the mistake with, is the fact that there is no titties. There's no titties. None at all. That's one of the main things that I regret about Reaper Book 1, is that I did not have titties in that book 1. It was all like guys and one little girl and then another little girl in a flashback who dies, but no titties. No, like, full-grown woman titties. Holy Ark also suffers from this problem. And then you also have the guy masturbating on the toilet, so you know, you get full peen, but you get no tits. And considering that you're doing an 18+ type of story, you could just have full frontal boobs in there. I'm not saying that you have to, but just to balance things out, right? Like I was talking about before, it's a matter of balance. We balance penis and titties equally. And like many other indie comics out there, there are a few like typos, or I would more so say grammatical errors, like scattered throughout. A lot of it is minor stuff, so maybe this is more of a nitpick. You know, some words are not hyphenated, commas in the wrong spot, apostrophes missing here and there. I think the most notable typo would actually be on the back cover in the synopsis, where it says Dominic is willing to do anything in order to find it. Ordered to find it. It should be like in order to find it. It's a pretty cool cover. I would just, you know, bump up, maybe move it in between Dominic and the girls, you know, like the title should always be big. I don't care what anyone else thinks. I think the title should always be the big part of the cover. I know it's hard. I know you don't want to cover up any of the good art, but title matter. And also, please make it white when it's up against a dark background. This is too hard to see. Make it white so that it pops out. I can't even see the title. Title matter. Holy Ark is a good name for your series. Be proud of it. Show it off a little bit more. Part of marketing your manga is also branding, so make sure people see the title. Anyway, overall I did enjoy Holy Ark. I think that this is one of those series that has the potential to just get better and better as it goes on, and as Young Wavy learns more about how to approach this series. What is the best way to deliver information? What is the best way to have characters grow and have the world and the lore grow and expand on all these concepts that he introduced? So I'll be excited to see how he decides to go about that. If you would like to check out Holy Ark, please feel free to check out the link in the description or in the pinned comment. And if you've already read it, feel free to let me know your own thoughts on the matter. If there's something I missed in my own review, or something that I failed to talk about. Other than that, thank you for watching another dannphan manga review, indie manga review. And I'll see you next time, guys. Bye!
Program restart.